It's 6:02, so we will call our July 2nd, 2024 APA board meeting to order. We'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brief moment of silence. I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening.
Oh, full house tonight. Michelle
house.
just is joining
Yay.
us. George is here. Everybody's here.
Well,
Brian's not here though.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
it has that under Michelle.
Oh, yes. Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started with the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
A second.
Yeah,
We
there
will-
is one thing that needs struck
Yeah.
from it. Ball State has rescheduled.
Okay.
Now that's unfortunate. I had a deal. Keith Chandler is going to do my
Yeah, so
treasurer's report.
Ball State
tonight.
has rescheduled.
That may be why they didn't
presentation,
show
so
up.
if you want to mark that off your agenda,
I'll have to give it now.
they will
yeah.
not be presenting tonight. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. And do we have any public comments? So next on our agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. I need a motion to approve the meeting notes or minutes from June 4th of 2024.
Make a motion that we approve the board minutes for the June 4th meeting as presented.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussions or any other changes to that?
Did we spell everyone's name correctly this time? That's
I think
usually
so.
our most common error repeated.
Yeah.
Okay. I think yours usually is the one that they tend to.
It likes to change Michelle and it likes to turn you into a futon, but it hasn't happened in quite a while.
Now, we do have Sandy's name spelled correctly, I believe. Yes, she's nodding correctly. Okay, very good.
All right, so now we have the approval of the CEO report. I'll give everybody a few minutes to go ahead and review that. We can go ahead and have a motion for.
I will be glad to make a motion that we approve the June 2024 CEO report as presented to us this evening.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those approve?
Any
Any
Or do we need
discussion?
to-
Yeah, I have a question real quick. It says down here under new hires, Jill, it says new position, elementary makerspace assistant. is that a new vacancy or a new hire? I was just a little confused by it being under new hire and then it didn't have a name.
Oh, that's Elizabeth Patterson. Sorry, I forgot to put the name down.
It's who, did you say?
Elizabeth Patterson. So she has been working for us as a substitute, and she has worked with us this summer during our summer camps and our summer school program. She's also APA alum, and her kiddos go here. She's a phenomenal young lady and is actually in school right now to get a teaching degree. And so what this position will do, it'll add an additional instruction assistant, sort of. But really, it's makerspace. The elementary is now going to have PE, music, art, neuroscience, and makerspace as their specials. And so once a week, each elementary kiddo will be in a special class where they're in the makerspace, and then Amy Wiles will be providing the content and all of that, and then Liz will be delivering it.
So is Wiles still a teacher, or is she, okay? And also then the makerspace like lead person then?
Yeah, we call her our maker manager. She's been in that position for several years. Mike Dean is one over here as well.
Oh, okay.
And basically, they help support anybody that wants to use the makerspace. They have access to different curriculums, and they make sure that we order enough filament or who knows what other interesting supplies we need in the makerspace sometimes. But yeah, so that's something that she's been trained on, especially with the project-based learning certificate, and that she just will help oversee so that we can expand those opportunities for the kiddos a little bit more.
Is Maddie going to be replaced?
No. So that had been, he actually had verbally resigned back, I think, in April time period. He just got official resignation last week. And with the way that position had shaped up over the last year, because he was out most of the time doing his clinicals and all that. Now that we have Terry at the elementary, who's a full-time mental health counselor, and now that we have Cassie and Darlisha here, and then we also have Janelle, who, because back in August, Janelle had asked to start working a couple extra hours to come in and do that. To see if that would be kind of a life choice. She's considering some college, maybe for that type of work, and so we feel that we are well covered in that area. So.
Okay.
Let's see, it seems like each month I raise a question about the Secure Safety Grant. Still haven't quite figured that one out yet. We're thinking that we're going to receive about $26,500 here in June. We've received nothing all year. And then next year, we're showing I think $99,999 or something, just a few bucks short of $100,000. Isn't $100,000 the max that we were supposed to be getting under that program? Or?
So yes, and we had to match $100,000 as well.
Yeah, that is what confuses me, because it really doesn't seem like anything's matching. It's more like they're calling, and I've said this before, matching is really just reimbursing what we spend up to 100, or
no. So
must be missing something.
With the grant like that, and pretty much actually all of this year's grant is going to, the 23-24 will come in 24-25. Mm-hmm. And so part of that has been project delays, because we didn't actually start having any of our projects until this last quarter that just finished.
Very late, yep.
And that was with the purchase of Raptor. So the matching portion of it basically is our commitment to $100,000 of other safety things. So our commitment that they're not reimbursing us for is with the Halo system, with some of
Okay.
our Sonatrol monitoring and updates like that, with our SRO and the safety specialist stipends and those things. So
Okay.
we don't get reimbursed on that, but they are reimbursing us up to $100,000 on the purchase of Raptor, the visitor management, volunteer management, drill management stuff, as well as Sonatrol camera upgrades and scan card upgrades to some of the buildings, and then also looking at ballistic resistant film for our street level windows. And that has been kind of a pain because when you get awarded the grant, you can't start until September 1st. But then you have to deal with seasonal issues as far as when you can install things like that. And then all the people that said, oh, we can do this and this and this, well, then they came and they looked at the windows, and then they really looked at the windows here. And we have cool double pane, very old, very huge windows, and they require a special mount. And so there will be a lot of work done with Sonatrol and some of those ballistic resistant film groups, and we have to get it all done by August 31st. So we will see.
Is that just a 1 year, one-time
is.
deal for now anyhow?
For now, and you can reapply it every year. You don't get it every year.
But you may,
Right.
yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're at, where
Okay.
we got it this year. We're probably not going to be able to do that, but we already, the expenses that we already have in there, if we don't get like that part, then we just don't do that, or we use our charter innovation money or something else for that.
Okay.
So,
Another technical question that, so we don't bog up our upcoming discussion here with the details. Could you explain again? I'm sure that you've gone through this with us before, but I'm not quite sure I understand fully what happened to the portion of the loan we made from 2 Junes ago for the computer purchases. Now, I think according to Bookkeeping Plus's numbers, looks like we spent a little bit on it.
yeah, so
But
we've,
the 125,000 is still available.
so the
right.
520,000 is not from the bank. That is a charter.
Or no, okay, I may have misspoke then.
So you're talking about like the computer purchase,
I'm talking
right?
about, yeah, for bleachers and the
Yeah.
337.
Started at 337, and
Yeah.
then bought bleachers for 204,000, and then computers 7,600, leaving 125,632.
Okay, right, that's exactly what I meant to
Yeah.
say.
So we still have some computer purchases that are happening, and we still have some things that are, we're trying to meet with the bank. The bank and I have been playing email tag for about a month at this point. They really want to come up and visit, but, we'll get there.
But they only do it on the last day of the year. of
I think
course,
so.
yes.
I think that was why they were so motivated. And I was like, no, I don't need to borrow more money. Thank you.
Yeah, not on the last day.
So what Beth and I had discussed, and what is going to be discussed with the banker, is the emergency repair that we had, right, for the foundation. We're not going to end up having to spend nearly as much as we had thought on the computers because of kind of the little plan that the IT has. And so if we could use the remaining balance just for that other capital project, right, then we don't have to have any issues. And it helps fund that.
And
So,
we're already making payments on
Right.
it anyhow,
Yeah,
since we got the money, so might as well use it.
yeah.
And then
Okay.
that'll just go right back into the pot that we have. We're isolating it until we get signed out from the bank, but hopefully it'll just go straight back into our cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not quite sure I understand what the IT department has come up with, but that doesn't, if I don't understand something technical, it doesn't matter really.
Yeah,
But,
really.
does that mean we won't need these big computer purchases every 2 or 3 years? Or?
We will still need, so for the 25-26 school year, we'll have to do a big purchase again.
Okay.
But for the 24-25 school year, we only really need to purchase are 30 staff computers, because we refresh 30 every year, and then about 40 student computers. And then we are purchasing insurance on those. And so that insurance, if damages happen, they'll actually be replaced. And so instead of us having to keep purchasing new computers, now there's that program. And it's not something that the parents will have to pay, because we know kind of some of those situations, right? And so that's where we're at for this year. And then moving forward, we'll have to do a refresh, because some of those computers are 4 years old, which is ancient in computer world.
Yeah.
But it's, a good way to get some moved out and then see how well that insurance part goes, how much of a reduced cost. We've got a lot of junk bird computers, so they can pull parts from computers that just can't, actually be used. And we've actually, this is one of those innovative, crazy things. They stole the 3D printers from this makerspace, and it's now in the IT office. And sometimes they 3D print repair parts for the computers, so pretty cost effective.
Does that mean we have an internal struggle here, or a feud, or okay?
Because we still have more 3D printers over in our middle school lab. But,
okay.
Yeah, and it's saved it. And then when we have computers that may have like a weird part that's harder to get, we especially had to do this because of COVID, right? The supply chain and all that. They've gotten pretty brilliant at fixing or finding or just recreating the part based off of like an image they found online or what they and their interns designed. So we've got some 3D printed computer hinges wandering around the place and whatnot.
Okay.
That's who printed your name things for the IT.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah. The last technical question. Let's see, it was called health self-employment payment required. Isn't that, we might want to define that, so again, it doesn't bog up the CR report here in a minute. Isn't that really like almost you have to post a bond, or with the reinsurers something? What is the exact nature of that? Because a lot of, if they're not self-insured, you may not know the lingo and what that means exactly. And then I don't have to try to best explain it.
I've had to learn a lot of new stuff in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So what that payment was, that is a parting gift from Allied Benefits, and part of that is basically when you end with a level funded plan, which is quasi self-insured, any of your claims that may have come trickling in the next 60 days after the end of plan year, so all the way up to July 31st, you have to put money basically in a pot with them to help cover some of those.
Okay.
To make sure that those claims end up getting
So that's
paid.
not the same as posting a bond then with the state treasurer's office.
Right.
So we're not really purely self-insured.
No, we are not.
Okay.
We are not at all. Now, really, we are just on the healthcare marketplace.
Right.
Like healthcare.gov.
And if it looks like we're getting a pretty good deal out of
far,
it, really,
so good.
yeah. So that's
There's not
great.
been too many complaints. I know some people, for the most part, people's premiums went down. If their premiums went up, their deductible went down. So,
They
the
got
give or
something
take.
good.
I've gotten to use my benefits this week, and it's been pretty great. So for the package that my family was able to get, it's like $14.53 a pay period. And my generic prescriptions are like $3. So, and I think we actually have like a $3,500 deductible per person, and that's much better than what we had through Allied, and it's all age-based, right? So
Yeah.
I will put this out there so that anybody's listening. I don't get any extra insurance benefits being in my position. We get the same, all of our administrators have the same as everybody else on the plan.
Yeah.
And I know like some schools do that where admin, you get benefits for $1, which is kind of weird because typically those are higher paid positions
Yeah.
too. But
We used to get
No
that when I
commentary.
taught but that was many years ago when, people only living to be about 62, I think, back in those days. So it was a little different environment, but that's good.
So, well, and with this big payment, the 107 to Allied, they keep 25 of it
Forever.
forever.
Yeah, that's a fee.
That's
Yeah.
that liability term into term insurance for them. Great way for them to get a final little
Yep.
kick to us. But everything else, if we don't have a lot of big claims that come in from basically April and May, they have to give the remainder back. So,
Very good. That'll help our cash flow situation a bit. Yeah, my uncle's company, corporate manufacturing holding company, was self-insured, and right after we went on self-insured, darn it, I totaled the new company car up in Detroit. But I think somebody did salvage the crankshaft, so we did get a few bucks back from that. But yeah, I about got kicked out of the family over that one, but anyhow, yeah, self-insured, oh well, we won't get into that. That's all I have at this point.
And Jill, I have another question real quick on the CEO report. You were talking about Fraley transitioning to a different position, and that'll provide much needed additional support for you, and also allowing us to continue our pursuit of the launch pad. I don't recall hearing about the launch pad, and so
25th Street,
the what?
25th Street. So the 25th Street project.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The
And then,
launch, that's called the launch pad. Okay.
we're
Okay.
trying names out.
Okay. I was like, I mean, I knew the whole 25th Street. I didn't know it was called the launch pad, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's gonna be the name of the early childhood area, and with that Fraley part, right, that is why we created Michael's position last
Right.
year, so that we could work on transitioning and moving those programs, right, and so that's kind of where we are and what we're
Now,
doing.
K through 2, which used to be over there, is still going to stay at 22nd Street then, we think.
It is in design on that, so it may be 2 through 5 stays there. K1 goes back with the early childhood. Part of it is gonna have to be where our research goes, right, on what's gonna be best practice for that. A lot of what we are seeing kindergarten and first grade wise, socially, behaviorally, academically, they probably would benefit better from an early childhood environment, because I think a lot of them miss out on that for various reasons, versus being in the same building with 12-year-olds. And so it's where will be the best programming and how we can best support each population.
And each class, each year may be a little different on that account.
Yeah, so we don't want to do, as when my transition to this position happened, right, that 2014, 2015 school year, we were looking at closing that building, consolidating, tossing 5th grade over here. And at one point, that discussion had been putting 4th and 5th grade over here in this building. And, what we found out in practice, right, putting 5th grade over here wasn't really great
Not a
for
good fit.
anybody.
Yeah.
It did, I guess, financially get us through kind of that issue that caused that. But academically, that's part of why we worked really hard to find a way to get 5th grade back there. And so really taking a really deep look, that's part of freeing Adam up or freeing myself up to do some more research, go visit other programming and see where they're at, because we need to have preschool, daycare, pre-K, that's just a given. Some of our staff members that have left, if we had had that programming, they would have been able to stay here. And there are now grants available for schools that will pay for their workers' daycare if the school has a program. So there's a charter in Indy that just got that Allegiant Prep, so they're going to be our new best friends. We want to see, what they've done. I've talked some of this. Terry Austin has talked to me about some of the early childhood programming that's available through the state, some of the legislation that she helped create, some of that programming. We've also been talking to Ball State because there is a possibility through the Quality Charter Schools grant that you can expand. And I said, well, we're already K-12. And she said, no, I mean, you could add pre-K. I'm like, well, this is new because technically charters didn't have pre-K built into the law originally. If you have pre-K as part of your nonprofit, it is not part of your school. And so now with kind of some reformatting of how Title I works, some of the federal programming, because that's a federal grant, and the push for paid childcare or those type of programs at a federal Department of Ed level, we might be able to get into that. But working with people that know way more about this type of stuff than I do, and so having Adam to kind of help navigate some other spaces too will be very helpful. But like I said, he's not going anywhere, and they're definitely doing a full 90-day transition, and there will be stuff he's going to do day to day, and he's more than capable and more than prepared
in
for
effect, there'll be multi-responsibilities, but we will basically have a principal-type individual at all three buildings. Is that correct? Because I know years ago, and it may be before your regime maybe, but I know that there was a problem because the teachers it's hard for one person to be in two buildings all the time, and the teachers felt like we are left out, we don't know what's going on. So we want to avoid that situation again too, I think.
Yeah, that was before my time, but that was also during my academic role.
You know, you were here certainly from the beginning.
Yeah, we had a principal at the elementary, and then a couple years we had like the assistant principal that was at the early elementary, so they both were principals. But then I think that was a budget cut thing, and so then it was the principal going back and forth. I think that was in that 2013.
Except
14,
they didn't
14.
go back and forth very much. We found that, yeah.
Right, which is, and it's hard because, you know, elementary kids, teachers, all that, it's needy.
Yep.
All schools are, but little kids especially. But what we would look at is an early childhood director for that building. It would not be Stottie's thing. He would, of course, go visit, help the kids transition from the building to his and all that,
But now we're not going to have early childhood starting day one of school opening.
this year?
Or are we?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, not this fall.
Okay. And then one question I should have asked, but I didn't think about, I'm assuming we do have, we've made a pretty good estimate of all of our 25th Street expenses over and above what we already were paying for the to maintain the building. We got that pretty well covered in our new budget for next year.
Yeah.
I figured we had, but I forgot to ask that
Yeah,
question.
a sizable chunk of that Charter Capital Projects grant will go to the development
Yes,
of Plainfield.
right.
There will be projects here at the elementary, parking lot related mostly, and most of the rest of it is going to go into that building.
That's all I've got there. I thought that was an excellent discussion. I think a lot of good questions got answered there. So.
The additional parking area at 22nd Street, what is being added to that parking lot?
So if you are on the east side of the elementary and you have a softball on your right and then that small parking lot, then you have a big grass field, and then you have the small parking lot that's against the building. Basically delete almost that entire grass, pave it over, and there you go.
Okay.
And then the front parking lot would also be repaved, and then over here the pre-academy parking lot will get repaved. But that's it.
I assume that's what the area was, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, maintenance is kind of mad because it's some of their favorite grass, so there has been some negotiation.
The one place they got grass to grow
Yeah, they're
real
like, this is
good.
the, I'm
we're
like,
gonna
yeah,
pave it
but parking's better. I'm sorry, guys. But
And it's needed.
It's very much needed, and it'll allow us, all the events we have.
Yeah.
It'll allow us to change some of how the drop-off, pickup goes, all of that. And I will leave a strip of grass between the sidewalk and the parking lot, and it's going to be 2 tractors wide. That's been the negotiation. But that allows that transition, but it'll be huge, a lot of space for us. It'll help a lot, so.
It'll help eliminate some of the parking, at least along the street,
Yes.
which I know can get congested right there on that.
Yeah, and the hope is to convince, it's gonna be hard to break some of our families of those habits.
Yeah.
So, we'll once that gets actually created, we'll cross that bridge. But, yeah, I think it's gonna be really great, and we are getting more requests to use 22nd Street for community events, and so being able to have that space for them as well. We just did the ACRI softball tournament. By the way, we won again.
Oh, very good.
2 years in a row. APA, we are so great at this mush ball thing. I have no clue how it's happening, guys. I really don't. I got out every single time I batted. They caught it every single time. It was really embarrassing. But being able to have that space where they can set up tents and all that activity is really great. But having it paved and all that would be phenomenal. So this helps us be more community friendly and actually have people not walking a few blocks to parent engagement nights.
Yes. Yes.
I was glad the concrete work was done. We could get in our back door now. Didn't we?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, walk so far.
And the French drain is working, so Anderson Weather decided to help us test that project out literally as the concrete was drying.
Basement stay dry?
Yeah, everything
Nice.
in the basement's dry, and the entryway by the event doors where we actually have marine carpet because the water just kept coming in.
Yeah.
Marine carpet was real smart for that. Stayed bone dry.
Nice.
Very
good.
That's good.
We are looking at what we're going to do with the flooring for that whole part, and theoretically it'll be fully done before the kids are back in a couple weeks. So.
Any other discussions? So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Got an approval for the CEO report. Now we have the financial
Treasurer's
report.
Okay, let's see. Did I miss anybody on the, I call it my cheat sheet or my script here?
Michelle, did you get one?
Yeah, I think I laid those on everybody's table here. I've got a few extra. We thought Ball State was going to make it tonight because I had to deal with Keith Chandler. I persuaded him that it was an excellent opportunity for him to give the treasurer's report, but that may be why they're not here. Either that or I told him that we didn't have air conditioning in the summer. That may have had something to do with it too, but at any rate, we'll try to get through it here. Okay, this is the results as of May 31st. I tried to get rid of some of our technical clutter, so with the year almost up, we're not going to endure yet another explanation of transfer entries and why budget doesn't really mean that we overspend, et cetera, et cetera. I think we got an understanding of that. So we start off with the top section here of the summary. Stated without transfers. What we're doing first is we compare our latest projected year end as of 5/31 with where we were at our last board meeting. And cash net income, last time we were looking at about $116,000 cash loss. And we've improved that a little bit, about $22,000 to $94,126 net cash loss. Net cash loss meaning that we were not completely able to cover our operating expenses without dipping into our ending cash balance. Now that can be a problem if that is a persistent pattern. But obviously, if it is a smaller amount, we're not broke. We do have the money to meet needs that do come up from time to time that are unexpected. And we've already discussed often this year about why there is such a variance between what we projected 2 Mays ago and how it actually turned out. So we originally were hoping to achieve a break-even or slightly better forecast. And then for the first time, since we really didn't have too much time to delve into the 24-25 budget, which we approved at our last board meeting, I did have to turn everything sideways here horizontally. I wanted to drop those numbers in just so we can sort of get a comparison to what we think we're going to have finished this year with what we think we're going to do next year. And this also then requires a little bit of an explanation. If we ignore any large grant carry forwards, for example, basically next year we would be looking at about $10,725,000 of income, and about $11,238,000 of total expense, which would give you a cash net loss of about $514,000, which means that would be a very big chunk coming out of our ending cash for this year. That ending cash balance, then, as we sort of move down a couple of lines here, we think is going to be pretty close to $836,000, which is a very good cash balance figure to end the year with. However, and we're not going to go through all of that discussion again, but I do want to refresh your memories that the last meeting or two we have had a vigorous but useful discussion on what to do about this timing situation, which entities like ourselves that are so dependent on grant money coming in, there's always going to be timing mismatches where you get the money here, but you can't spend all of it or most of it until over here. Yet, last month we were faced with the situation of, I think we agree, everybody is in agreement that we do always want to approve a balanced budget as a board. And so there was a bit of a problem there. However, I think Bookkeeping Plus and management, I'll credit both parties here, came up with what I think is a very good solution around this. So let me try to explain this, and then if I get anything incorrect, I will gladly let Bookkeeping Plus step into it and try to explain it better here. But you'll notice that in the explanation column here on the left, it says 24-25 budget cash net income as stated with the $520,000 facility grant carry forward. Now that's a big word there, but basically what that means is that if we okay, that means then that if we assume, let me start again here. We have the right, for example, on Title I money, and maybe there's some other loan or grants too. We have to spend, I think, 85% of the money that we've earned for a given period of time. We have to at least spend that much during the year, but the rest of it can carry forward into the next year. And in our budgets, whether we had it clearly marked or not, which we sometimes didn't really clearly mark it, we were allowed to carry that forward, and we did, because our budget is not an audited financial statement. I call it a management tool. But this year, next year, for example, your footnote said we were carrying $50,000 forward, we think, from Title I. So because that precedent has already been set then, what we basically do is we are carrying forward the totally unspent $519,000 facilities grant into our next year's budget, just like we would if it was a Title I grant or any other grant. And when you do that, basically what that does is that gives you, on paper, officially, a break even, actually 6,000. You can sort of see the number hanging clear over there in that far right, 6,304. Now, the question then is, are we in any way overspending? That's the big thing, I think, from a board standpoint, that we want to use our budget to determine. Now, if we are not covering our operating expenses and we're making a habit of it, that we need to do something about immediately. If it's just a timing mismatch, I think that we want to try to accurately capture what's going on. And then going a little bit further down here, and again, this is a lot to explain and digest, but all of the details are in the pre-meeting report, and you can study this and at your leisure here. But what Bookkeeping Plus has done is our ending cash balance of $836,000 is going to be divided into restricted cash, $519,945 for the facilities grant, restricted for the loan proceeds, which we talked about earlier, that are not used, which is $125,632, and then that would leave us an available cash balance for everything else of about $191,000. Now, that in effect, and we talked about this at the last meeting briefly, but the exact figure, I believe, would be how much cash are we actually going to have on June 30th, 2025? Well, it's going to be the same on a cash budget or on our accrual statements. The difference between those two is just a matter of timing of income and expense. But the cash balance has to be the same for either one. Hopefully everybody's noticed that. That takes some of the mystery out of those accrual statements. So I think we're going to end up with $322,694. Now, that's... I don't know that historically is a number that we want to remain at forever as a goal. But it's better than some other numbers, let's just say that. So I think for us then to say, well, is this a problem? Should we be worried or not? I think at that point we'd almost have to start forecasting stuff out for maybe the next year or two, and then that way we could probably determine if this could be running it a little too close or not. I don't know that we can say that's going to be a problem at this point in time. So,
I would say, from a management standpoint, it's not, right? I'm not anticipating us really getting that low. Obviously, we have always built in expenses in there that we may or may not have, and we are very good at knowing, oh, we better tighten the belt on, this. Sorry, guys. And that's been part of the COVID cliff, fallout or whatever. But we've been saying that for 2 years with everybody. Hi, we're buying stuff now because we will not be able to keep buying some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so you will see expenses go down. Now, the wild card, obviously, is that inflation is a very real thing, and schools are not getting any extra money to make up for the fact that $5 pencil sharpener is now like $40.
Yes, yeah.
So, and we're getting hit. We're seeing it in our obviously every industry, right, that we work with. So whether it's the price of gloves that we are purchasing, or we are getting salt for the winter, or mechanic services, or pretty much anything, those costs have gone up significantly, just like all Americans are facing, you know, at Walmart and all that stuff. And so that has been something for us, management-wise, looking and making sure, do we really need all of these things? Or is that another thing that's just going to get set on the shelf? We really wanted it right in that idea, right? And so that's where making sure that we are good stewards with it, that all of the purchases are tying into the, you know, learning and what our teachers need in the classroom, and then crowdsourcing on a lot of the wants, right? The wishes. If you are on Facebook right now and you're with a Facebook friend with most of our teachers, they all have Amazon wish lists out there for a ton of fun things, and families and people from Alaska are like, here you go. They're just sending stuff into them. And that's not just like an APA teacher thing, right? Like it's everywhere now, because teachers can't afford, you know, the state and the federal government, CJ, you can correct me on this, we get $150 that we can claim for expenses a year. Is that, oh, 200. My bad. $200 for personal expenses that educators are spending on their like classrooms and things, which is one happy week at Walmart for one of them because Joey needs school supplies or gloves, or they need to buy more granola bars for their classrooms. So there's not a lot of help coming this way. And so it's been nice that basically the public is helping, at least in that way. But being able to have those type of things for families, because we have a lot of families that if given the opportunity to contribute, volunteer, etc., they will do what they can. And you know, we have some families that say, hey, I'd love to bake treats for Teacher Appreciation Week. Instead, can I just Venmo you $100 and you go buy some? Yes, please, thank you. So, you know, that's kind of where we've always been in that part, getting donations and doing all the extra small grants and things. And
well, it helps offset our donations line, which is very small at this point in our history. That's interesting. Let's see. Let me continue here. I don't want to get too bogged down in this. Just moving down the sheet here, our ratios that we do keep tabs of. With 1 month left to go, we are at, on our debt service coverage ratio, 1.94 times would be times our debt service obligations, and we're required 1.25. So unless something totally weird happens here in June, we should be able to make that very comfortably. Yeah. Substitute expense. Oh, we thought we might meet budget last time, but it's not to be. $134,728 with 1 month to go, although I doubt if we'll have too much sub-expense in June, except maybe from heat exhaustion or something. But anyhow, now next year, we're projecting $96,000, which I thought, gee, is that going to be enough? And then I thought, I couldn't recall, does our sub-expenses, and we have them broken out by the 3 buildings, or the 3 grade levels, does that include long-term maintenance, or pregnancy leave?
yes.
Okay, so we are not ignoring that. Well, we'll see. And then we talked a little bit about the health insurance. Here's some more precise numbers. This year, again, on a cash basis, our total health insurance expenses look like they're going to be, again, with 1 month still to report, about $604,000. Now, we were a little bit below our $500,000 level at $497,000. That, remember, is net. That's after we've recovered a portion of our premium expense from employee payroll deduction, because we get the full amount billed every month, and we do have to pay that, but then we get some of that back eventually from payroll deduction. It took the board 5 years to figure that one out. But again, that's ancient history, I guess. So, but then we did pick up, of course, our self-insured payment and TPA fees. The self-insured payment due in June, that's coming up, and we may have already paid it, $107,000, but we found out we were going to get a lot of that back. So that's good. Now, if we move clear over to the last column here, which will be our next year's budget, we think that net health insurance will be $297,492, which is if we can do that, that is a great savings to us. And it looks like we may eliminate that built-in budget buffer for about up to 200 maybe. I don't know if that's good or bad, and then we will have TPA, third-party expense of $52,000. So our total cost next year, we're thinking maybe around $350,000, which would be a real help on our bottom line in cash. So we'll see on that. Let's see now. If you go to the very bottom here. What caused year-end changes? Okay, so I just sort of tried to spell that out to answer that question. If you want the detail, it's all in the pre-meeting report. There was a slight reduction in our projected total income, mostly the food service reimbursement and all of that. And we did assume we would get the safety grant in May, so which we did not. Total expense was dropped or reduced by $40,000. A big one was the IT hardware. That dropped. We were able to drop that about $140,000 because of the computer purchase, which we just talked about earlier, not being needed here. And then again, instructional compensation, it seems like, is coming in below budget to the tune of about 27. And then that offsets the 107 health self-insurance payment. And we did have a $55,824 increase in professional services, which are under, is that instructional or G&A? G&A, I think. $55,000, we moved it back to what the budget had to start with. And don't we have a vocational tuition in May or June that's due? I think the footnote was a little confusing, but I think that may be why that number got bumped up. But again, these are the big items here that cause those budget variances for those interested in comparing budget and actual. Okay, let's go down to May then, and then go back up a little bit here. I've got a line separating the monthly then from everything else here. May actual was supposed to be 100, or May projected was supposed to be 108,151 cash loss. And actually, we managed to almost double that to 210,252, and that left us at the end of that month with 936,000 ending cash. Now, why is that? Is always the question. Next question. So if we go back to my text down at the very bottom, actually it's a pretty simple explanation for why we increased our budget, our loss that month. Total income or total expense is usually, more often than not, is actually under budget. Now, with your inflation discussion earlier, we will have to keep an eye on that. But I would say more often than not, if we're way off from budget, it's usually the income part, and it's usually a timing difference. So anyhow, in this case, total income was under budget by about $133,000. Again, that's why I keep asking about that safety grant, because that's one of the things that keeps throwing us off budget every month. And then the food service reimbursement, I'd call that a red herring, because that we get the money. It's just we bill 2 months bills and then send it in, and who knows when we get it paid back. And so again, I don't think anything really to be concerned. We were expecting a cash loss, and that was a little more than we thought it would be. So let's see. Now, looking ahead to June, June originally was projected to be, at our last board meeting, at about a $223,000 cash loss. We think now it might be down to about $99,000, which would be good. And a lot of that comes from what money from Title I and food service that we did not receive in May. We're hopeful we get it in June. And if we do get it in June, that will improve the cash loss. And if we don't, we'll get it in July. And July is often a very big month for us because all the stuff that we didn't get tends to fall over in July if we're lucky. So I don't see any real problem there on the May or June numbers. But again, the detail for those wanting or needing it, you can check my report out. And the only thing I haven't mentioned is on a May accrual basis, they're showing a $213,000 cash loss. So that's actually very close to cash net income. Usually there's a bit of a variance, but again, that it really doesn't mean too much. That's why you have to, I believe, focus on any monthly discussions or cumulative year-to-date. You just have to discuss those with an eye on what you think the year end's going to be to have any true understanding. That's all I have. Is there anything I've got wrong or any other things maybe we want to talk about that I didn't try to cover everything? So.
No, I think what you said was really pretty good. A lot of times in June, because, we don't always know when some of those things are going to come in, they all end up in June. But like you said, if they don't come in June, they will come in July. And then we did get some like lunch money, and I think Sandy said the high ability. So we definitely did that. So far, I don't think we did get the safety bill. The safety did not come in. So that will carry over. But like you said, it will come over the next month, and we still have the cash coming. So we're still going to be fine.
Oh, one question I just thought of, collections, student fees. Now, textbook, mostly the state reimbursed us about $133,000, some to cover that. Hopefully it covered all of the costs, but maybe not. Every month, it looks like we're over budget on what we're getting from student fees, which is good.
Yeah.
But how do we really stand on the collections part of it?
We're not doing that. Remember, we had talked about writing off and all that.
That's all gone.
Yeah.
But starting from a clean slate right now, how are we really doing, would you say?
No different than they would be. I mean, the fees that we see that are coming in, a lot of that's like athletic fees or lunch type things or participation for like a field trip or those things. So we're not seeing any more really than we had previously. And as far as the textbook fees, the way that I was able to break this down, because when you say you tell people, the public, right, you're not paying textbook fees and teachers hear that the state's providing all this money. Cool, I'm gonna get a lot of extra money for my classroom. So broke it down. If you're looking at a high schooler and you are doing it for, they've got 8 periods a semester, basically they can take potentially 16 classes in that semester, and it's $9.63 per class. So not a lot of money there, and we spend at least $250,000 in our curriculum delivery and purchases and all that. But it's still a lot more than we were actually bringing in on student fees. So I have no qualms about that, but I do want to make sure that publicly people know we're not just now flush with resources on that.
Well, when you say free, that's a dangerous word to use, misunderstood easily.
Well, they give about $150 per student, and if you were buying a traditional textbook, that will cover one for one class. So.
But we're not using the hard.
No, we don't. That's why we do the digital curriculum, because it's much more cost effective and they get updated all the time versus you buy a book, it was obsolete as soon as it came off print and all that. But kids and the adults, right? The books, some feel better having that in their hand, and so that's a hard thing. So we do have some textbooks in use in classes, but there's like class sets, or they are definitely hand-me-downs, and it's on something that doesn't change, like algebra. History books change a little bit.
The reason I
Add
asked
a few little
that,
pages every day.
the only reason I brought that up, I mean, we know it's not part of the audited financials for anyone in the industry, let's say, but it does represent monies that were owed us that we could use for something else, and it's a shame if we were, lapsing back into that problem. So sounds like we're doing pretty good to date on it. We're not hemorrhaging like we had been in the past. Maybe.
No, and part of that, one of our donations that we get is from the Gaither Foundation, and that has helped offset some of the situations that kids are in. So some of those fees, and Bookkeeping Plus can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but are actually internal transfers possibly to the fund from like our Support Our Students Fund. So the Gaithers give us about $5,000.
I know we are ahead of the curve. Everybody knows that yesterday it is no longer legal for your student to be carrying a cell phone in a school building. We were already ahead of that curve, but now we are not the only. We are not the only school fighting that battle. So that did lead to a lot of our headbutting that we had, not only with students, with our parent and guardian interactions. Technology use is a huge concern. So what we'll be doing, as we move into 24-25, surveys will continue to be used. We'll be using a lot of parent feedback in regards to, we'd like to do some small group meetings and things like that. So we're really looking for that. Academically, we did have some pretty significant challenges as well. And that number one challenge is attendance. Attendance is a growing concern across the state. It is not just an Anderson thing. It is not just an APA thing. It is a growing national concern to the point where our different entities, so Delaware County is addressing it different than Madison County, Henry County is addressing it different than Madison County as well, but there is going to be an uptick in regards of what is expected to be reported and how that reporting is going to be done to the prosecutor's office. So as we saw last year, Linda Whitaker, who is our attendance secretary here, does a wonderful job, has a great relationship with the prosecutor's office. But the prosecutor's office is just inundated with these concerns. Okay, so we are trying. Linda is trying with those consistent communication, and that becomes a challenge. So with that, we are also looking at ways to engage. Engagement is a concern. Whenever we talk about academic engagement, this again is not just an APA problem. This is a pedagogical problem that we are looking at and trying to identify ways to connect our students to something. So one of the things that we are doing, that we started in January this past year, Jesse Reynolds with the LAMC, at Anderson University, we were taking pre-academy students up to AU and introducing them to different academic programs. So we are starting to kind of pull back and starting to introduce students at a younger age to careers and career fields and career clusters as we move forward. So we have a plan for that moving forward. Our new counselor, Cassie Van Sant, is going to really take a lead on that in the pre-academy. And as we move forward with that, we're really excited. As far as the academic skill development, what that means is, as far as I'm concerned, is just that perseverance in that want to continue to grow. So how do we look at that perseverance? It's how do we measure growth, right? And how we are going to encourage growth and not have that punitive measure. So it's really easy right now for a student that wants to write a research paper to type in the topic on a ChatGPT, and they will get their AI version of the paper. Instead of struggling through learning how to read, acquiring new language. We are trying to make sure that learning and that process of learning is enjoyable for the most part, but also rewarding at the end. So with that being said, taking a look at 24-25, we have had some staffing turnover. We are excited about where we are at. As we said, we know that last year we had a slow start. Some of that slow start was the changes in our counseling department. So as you see, we have had the opportunity to secure a new counselor. She started June 8th. Her name is Cassie Van Zandt. She is a recent graduate of Ball State. Prior to going to Ball State for her master's, she worked as a BCBA, so she had her bachelor's in behavioral science. And so now she made that transition into school counseling. She finished her internship at Frankton and then was able to join us June 8th. Richard Thompson, for those of you APA lifers that know Richard Thompson, he came in and helped her and introduced her to Skyward and our scheduling processes, procedures. So July 18th, whenever our Skyward rolls over, your students, if you have a cadet in grades 6 through 12, you will be able to see their schedules. All schedules have been finalized for the 24-25 school year. So at registration, you'll be able to get a copy of the schedule, and if you need to make schedule adjustments, we will be able to do it with our academic team there.
I will say with that, sorry for the interruption,
go right
but
ahead.
she actually reached out to Clara regarding Clara's schedule already and got it resolved right away. Clara was very quick to comment about that and how fast and how it was great that she contacted Clara regarding her schedule.
I'm very, very excited about Cassie. She is a dynamic personality. She's going to be able to connect with all of our students. Just very knowledgeable. Has seen multiple sides. So being in the BCBA role prior to, and then identifying her passion for school counseling. It's really evident. It's really evident. So
Yeah, she is one that, like, in my interview with her, right, within like the first 20 seconds, it was like, yes, she's exactly what we need, right? She's very much an empath, very in tune with the kiddos and the way that she responds. She's a calm human and just brings a nice supportive presence. I was like, well, I'm gonna spend time in your office. I need you to rein me in, but she's phenomenal.
Good.
And you said she related very well to redheads, natural redheads.
This is another Cassie.
Oh,
We've got more Cassies.
We've got a lot of Cassies
This
now.
isn't Sped Director Cassie. This is Cassie the counselor.
Ah, right, I see.
Yeah, so a few of the other hires that have taken place, we have rounded out our Civil Air Patrol with 2 retired veterans. We are excited with that. Josh Weaver is coming to us. So Josh had over 12 years experience in the U.S. Air Force, had his last deployment about a year and a half ago, made his way home from Qatar, and has been making a year-long transition out, working up at Grissom. So now he is going to be making his full transition to civilian life, working in the Civil Air Patrol. Huge background in digital media and just photography. So any of the U.S. Air Force, talked about the videos that were shot from airplanes, from the jets and everything. That was from his department. So video editing, those types of things. So excited about what he brings. Also, Miss Haley Miller. Haley Miller is also a recent retiree from the Air Force. After what's that?
Navy?
No, she was Air Force.
Oh, was her dad Navy then?
No, that was the young lady that we
Look, there's been a lot of veterans and branches. I'm trying to keep all the branches to make sure that they don't end up in the wrong rooms together. There's some Army, Navy, can't be around. There's some things.
Yeah, so Haley made her transition out of the U.S. Air Force and then completed her bachelor's degree in education through WGU. So we are excited to have her on board as well. Then we had a few other hires as well as far as classroom teachers. Elisa Nibiola. She was a student teacher for Miss Christine Trotter this spring, and so we were able to hire her. She will be transitioning to our 10th and 11th grade English position. Miss Jamie Norman will be joining us in the pre-academy as our 7th and 8th grade science teacher. And then Mr. John Matthews came in last week. We secured him. He will be teaching high school math. So with Richie's transition taking place over into the band director position, John will be filling in and coming on board to teach math. So he's a recent graduate of Ball State as well through their education program. Then we do have 2 positions that are pending hire right now. So we just completed interviews earlier this week with a 6 and 7 and a 9th grade ELA position. So there have been some staffing changes. Miss Bienemy is still with us, but she had made a transition. My father, who had taught dual credit social studies the last couple of years, has now fully retired. He decided that, or my mom had decided that he was no longer going to work. So Miss Bienemy is going to take over with her social studies licensure and teach econ, government, section U.S. history, but also she does have an MBA. So her personal finance class, now that personal finance is going to be a required course for the state of Indiana. The way that she teaches that course as a former accountant. So she did a lesson last year on tax withholdings and whenever you get that first job and what to put on an I-9 and how to fill out a W-2, it was great. So really excited about what she's going to be able to show our kids specifically as they make their way. We do have a couple other things that will be taking place here in the 24-25 school year. Our relationship with Anderson University. I'm not sure if everybody saw the media release that came out in May. So there is going to be in Madison County a direct enrollment process for any student. Once they enter 9th grade, they will be automatically enrolled at Anderson University as far as automatically accepted. And they will receive a local scholarship based off their GPA. As long as it is a 2.5 or above, there will be an automatic enrollment. And then it provides eligibility based on their GPA as far as their award. So trying to make sure that those Madison County graduates are trying to stay in Madison County. So really excited about that initiative. So really excited to see how that progresses for us as we've really worked hard to build that relationship with AU. Spent a lot of time on their campus this last year. That's from 7th through 12th graders, making our way up there. Really excited about that.
Now, did you say that started for this year's 9th graders, or it starts, when does that start?
It's in 25, 26. Yeah, 25, 26.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 25, 26.
So this year's 8th graders.
Yeah, so this year's 8th graders.
25, 26 class of the freshman class of 25 to 26. They are going to be an interesting group all around, just because, not them personally, but because of the way the state's trying to adjust a lot of things.
And the
so they're
graduation requirements and stuff too.
Yeah, they're going to be the guinea pigs again, and that's just not a great move, but we can deal with that next month.
Right. Yeah, don't want to.
Now the AU thing's going to be fantastic.
Don't want to alert anybody, but the diploma projections are what they are presenting. So in August is when they'll have the next reading. As far as that, they've already made adjustments to what came out a month ago, and they've already started to piece things and adjust things. So I don't want to get things too excited about things, but we have a good foundation in place already to be able to support what that initiative would be. So in regards to apprenticeship, internships, job readiness, etc. So we're excited about that, but also cautious. I think would be a word. So our relationship with LAMC is going to continue to grow. They are going to continue to come in and support our 8th graders. That program will begin once again, so they come in once a month. And then we have Balance and YLA. Our students will continue to serve and be a part of those programs, so we're really looking forward to that. Radiant Health Services, I am really excited about the way that relationship has continued to grow over here at 29th Street. The support that they have shown for us behaviorally and as far as our traditional health supports has been great. We meet next week to just reanalyze our relationship with Aspire and kind of reaffirm some of those things now that there have been some staffing changes at Aspire as well. So we're interested to see what that looks like moving forward. And then Jill's work with the Energy Impact Center is opening a lot of doors for our students here at 29th Street. And then the Village with Mr. Jackson, Lewis Jackson, is something that we are continuing to re-enter and discuss. Just the last few things here, just to make everybody aware. As if you come into the building this school year, you are going to see a little different approach in regards to our administrative team and our leadership and the way that we're going to support our staff with some of the changes that we've had take place administratively. We were able to kind of rebalance towards the end of the year and really looking forward to it. Like I said, we were working from behind. We also had some members of my team that had some health issues and some health concerns that kind of put us behind. But academic interventions, we are going to be very proactive and individualized approach for our students and families, trying to identify ways to bring families on board and make them a part of the journey. That is a part of the community relationship that Jesse Reynolds and I have been discussing about how to teach our parents and families to engage in the process and us as well as how to engage families in that process instead of trying to, it feels like we try to push away from time to time. Leader in Me, our Leader in Me program that has been really big in the 6th, 7th, and 8th. We now have that transition taking place up in the 9th and 10th grade, so we're excited about that, growing that way, and that will expand through our CAP program. So CAP will take a lot of the leadership on that as well. Expanded Pre-Academy Fine Arts, so our discussion with Richie making his way to the band director, one of the things that we've identified with our exploratory periods, we've done some rotational things, but both choir and band, we are just looking at providing some of those advanced players in 7th and 8th grade the opportunity to continue to grow. So we are looking at the addition of a pre-academy jazz band that would be for 7th and 8th graders. So that would be a semester long that they can opt into. If they'd like to take another exploratory second semester, that would be great. And we will also have a 7th and 8th grade show choir, kind of an advanced choir as well. So that, again, that would be a semester-long course that would be offered. If a student or a cadet chooses to take it for a full year, they're more than welcome to do that. But that would be presented as an option once they return. Just the last couple things here. As I said, I'm really looking forward to our academic intervention. Some of the things we have in place. It's going to be earlier intervention and individual focus with Jordan, Mr. Henry, and Alicia, Ms. Everett. We are excited about some of the things that we were able to put in place the last few months of the school year. We were able to test run it and seen some high levels of success with some of our really at-risk students. And whenever we say at-risk not to graduate. So it's those that have fallen behind credit-wise, we're excited about that. And then the last thing here is the intentional instructional coaching. One of the things that Dr. Malik had put in place prior to her departure, is really a focus, on moving our staff to help their professional growth. One of the things that we're going to be more intentional about this year is providing each of our staff a personalized type of plan. So that is a personalized type of growth plan for our staff. Yeah. So project-based learning is going to continue to be at the forefront as well as our rotational model. But we want to be able to encourage each of our teachers to take those concepts and build it for themselves individually, specifically around each of their personalities and Not everybody's going to get up here and be able to speak, but they have, each one has their unique personalities, and we just want to make sure that we're there to support them. So, are there any questions about anything for the 24-25 school year, things that took place this past year?
I was curious on the attendance problem.
Right.
Is this something that we have always struggled with?
No.
Post-COVID?
No, I would say
Yeah.
since
And do you think COVID is maybe the big culprit?
I would say that yes, that is a portion of it. There is a feeling that being at work or the being at school, can be made up, because everything's online now, just don't see the importance of being there. It is a challenge. It is a mindset, that we struggle with.
Now, is that perhaps a situation where people are opting to take being
No,
virtual
they're just opting not
students
to
and
show
then
up.
not really? Oh, okay. So it's in building problem.
Yeah, so, and it is a national problem. It is something that our state legislators tried to address a little bit last session, but all they did was change the definition of chronic absenteeism and lower that standard. So in the past, it was like 95%, 94, 95%, that arena, and I don't remember what number they dropped it to, but it doesn't solve the problem. It does statistically, because, it's, that, but right now, the state average of students that are attending, this is public, charter, everybody, that are attending 94% of the school year is 61%. So 39% of students are missing 93% or are attending 93% or less a year. As a personal anecdote on this, we did have a family try to complain to Ball State about us because we wouldn't leave them alone. They didn't come to me first, so Ball State told them to come to me and see what the problem was. Their child missed 49 and a half out of 91 school days thus far. And they felt that our attendance policy just wasn't realistic. And so that's a problem.
Isn't the state like a 10 unexcused absences?
Yeah, so our policy mirrors what the state expectation is. In regards to truancy law, unexcused, etc. All of those attendance rules in our handbook are standard across all public schools. The concerning part in the mindset of it is it doesn't matter until it matters. And George, you run into it as well in your role. Certain things don't matter until it matters, right? So we had seniors at the end that are needing a waiver to be able to graduate because they weren't able to pass the assessments, the career readiness assessments. Well, they have to have a specific percentage of attendance, and it's 85%. It's only 85% of attendance rate for 4 years average. And we have a handful of students every year that do not meet that. So because of the chronic absenteeism, it impacts their ability to graduate high school.
And it's been a big thing, and it's been growing. And again, part of it's the apathy. Part of it is, well, can't they just hop online and watch the class? Or why do you care so much? And because we love your kids and we really want to help them, do that stuff.
You chose this field to get into.
Right.
Students and parents have figured out that schools bend over backwards to make sure that the kids graduate, whether it's in Minton, Plato, whatever online thing there is. Teachers give extra credit, not just at this campus, but other, whether it's at Anderson School Corporation, teachers are being advised, hey, give them a chance to turn in the work, give them a chance.
Yeah. And I would say here that's way less because the standard is the standard. Like there's some things like that, but there have been, there's kids that you come to APA, we have a more demanding diploma than anybody else does, and there's nothing we can do about it, right? Or maybe I guess that we're willing to do about it. But you're right, because there's a lot of people are being pushed. Oh, well, they'll just pass it anyways. And there's tons of social media jokes going around. Like, you know, the last 2 weeks of school, that's when all the kids want to show up, get the extra credit, and wait, I can't catch up a semester in this time. It's real hard to learn a lot of
I saw a
advanced
mother
things.
tell their child this year, hey, take a mental health day. The child was doing e-learning.
Yeah, you know, it's hard. But, and for us, like as a school, for the support from it, right? Sorry, I'm getting in order, but the educational neglect, the process for that, the reporting for that, we're supposed to contact DCS, we're supposed to talk to the prosecutor's office. If they're underage, we're supposed to talk to juvenile probation. And those people will say, thanks for letting us know, have a good day, because there's so much pervasive. There's not a way for them to do it. So we have to find a creative way, right, to do it, but also, I don't know what the future of that is.
I know when they get to their senior year, I've experienced this with my own, getting him to get to school, you know, and once they turn 18, it's like, I'm 18, even though they don't feel that it's, you know, still a necessity to graduate.
And the children know, they know nothing is going to happen to them. They know that the system is completely overwhelmed. I know somebody who told her mother in the courthouse, I don't care, I'm not going. And there's nothing that's going to be done about this. I mean, because the police, everybody who's supposed to do it is too overwhelmed to have to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
We talked about the work permit law. In that same vein is the incorrigibility law is, you know, no longer there. You have so a lot of things that used to be in place that were seen as compelling or punitive, you know, depending on how you wanted to look at it, have been removed. You know, and really the only thing that still sits there is the driver's license to be able to remove and that.
They're still gonna.
I mean, that's
unfortunately, they will still drive.
That's not gonna help them get here.
And most of our kiddos that do drive, right, and it's not that our student parking lot's ever that full, right? They're coming to school because most of those kiddos are the D26ers or they're getting their certification, right? And so a lot of it comes back to getting them early career exploration, trying to find internships, trying to find the way to entice them to come to school because they see a monetary value to it, right? The wanting to come to school because it's amazing and I love to learn, right? That's only going so far right now because there's a lot of big life situations too that are happening to our kids. And so I use the kiddo that basically just didn't go to school his sophomore year of high school and then switched to virtual and then was making $80,000 while still finishing his high school diploma through the apprenticeship program and all that. The more that we can find that type of programming, you know, the better connection, engagement, support, all of those things. But that's a lot of moving pieces, and that's then, you know, a whole box of other things. But yeah, the chronic absenteeism, I think that is the biggest stressor, frustration, and it's for everybody, right?
Yeah, it's hard as hard.
And then I think from what I hear from businesses, that same attitude is carrying forward. There's plenty of jobs out there, but people aren't trained for it. Or when Nestle's was new, I remember sitting at the table with Mayor Broderick, who was newly elected. And I said, I heard some Nestle people on a talk show, local talk show radio. And they said, you know, the question was, why aren't you guys hiring more city people? Because after all, you're getting all these tax breaks. And they said, we'd like to, but we can't get employees that can pass drug tests. Now, they may pass the initial one, but in other words, so between that and people that don't want to show up and don't want to really, you know, do the job, I don't know. I think it's becoming epidemic.
Well, and I think
although
part
it's
of
always
that,
been present. I mean, you know, human beings have never changed that much in a way.
Getting them to show up.
But it is getting worse, I think. Yeah.
and part of that is the technical skills, right? And we see this in a classroom, right? I will use Algebra 2 as an example. That's a really hard class. conceptually, if you're not really going into engineering and that arena, why do you need Algebra 2? Sorry to the Algebra 2 teacher in the room. Right? But you could take that time and invest those into the skill sets that those kids are going to need. But if they're not coming to school or you don't have the resources, right? And that's part of the fear with some of the new graduation part. Not all of our teachers are going to be able to teach this specialized stuff because you need people from factories to come teach specialized stuff, or the kids to go to the factories. There's some programming there available. But if I have to go to Algebra 2, and I'm not really great at it, it's not, no matter how cool the teacher is, no matter how much to make it, it's so much easier to just not go, right? Because I'm gonna fail, I don't believe in myself, so you get into that motivation, all that stuff. I imagine the same thing's happening in the workforce when you hire an unskilled worker, say, I'm gonna train you in the factory, but now robots are doing it and AI is doing it, and they don't have that skill set. Well, you're going to work, you're gonna get fired soon because you can't keep up. I do want to point out and give props to programming like Ivy Tech, right? They're working with DWD, and I'm pointing to people because they work there. The Next Level Jobs Initiative, where if you have a high school diploma, so this is a carrot for us, you can enroll at Ivy Tech for free in certain programs that will lead to short-term and long-term certificates that you can also turn around into an associate's degree. But you get those certificates, CDL's even on there, right? There's accounting, there's engineering, there's factory, there's technology. Early childhood is not on there, which I think is an issue, but they can do that for free, get the jobs in the Nestle, in the end-to-end, and be successful at it. I think they would see increase there. So trying to help support, make that model very successful, but also trying to beg, borrow, and steal, maybe that will help us. But CJ and his team, they went and did a school visit at this really cool program that can help our kids get a taste of what it could be. I think that's something, especially in CJ's 5 years here, it's getting them to lunch and learns, it's getting them to the crane union, getting them to go to AU to do this or that, getting them out to see what's coming. But at the end, the value of education and getting here, COVID definitely showed, well, first, we have one of those parents in this room from the class of 2020, right? Well, they said, just let them graduate, like the seniors, right? Where they were, that's it. And so then the classes following that, they're like, wait, where's our freebies? We told you it's a one-time deal, no way. And so it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, feeds on itself, because if you don't have the skills for what good jobs are available, then you can't get a job, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, the government's going to have to step in. Well, there's limits to, there's only so much money in the universe. I mean, I don't know, it's a problem.
Hey, when the pandemic happened, they found a lot of education money. I'm sure there's others.
Taking driver's license away is going to give them an excuse not to come to school.
Well, right, and it's literally, I don't know, not like 20 kids.
Well, kids are always going to be kids. Like my mom said, you can't put old heads on young shoulders. So you're always going to have that challenge, but it does seem like the trend is getting is getting worse.
Yeah.
And, this represents, I think, from a board standpoint, I know in some of our recent meetings with the charter school folks at Ball State, they were saying, well, how is the board involved in strategy, et cetera? Well, when we first started out, I think our approach was that basically our graduates were either going to be college-bound 4 years or military, and little else. That got into the that general diploma or not discussion. But things have evolved, I think, out of necessity, because if we don't educate kids in a way that they can actually get good jobs when they get out of here, I mean, we're failing. And a lot of these good jobs do not need a 4-year college degree. And so I think that's how the board has had to evolve, and I think we are evolving. Because a lot of what we're talking about now are saying that we're going to do this, going to do that, now this is my just observation, which may or may not be correct, but that would have been an anathema when we first started. What was the mission of APA going to be? That would have been almost an anathema. But we've had to change out of necessity. So I think the board has done a good job I think we've all done a good job of rolling with the punches and putting the needs of the kids that go here over and above mission statements and everything else. I'm not saying we don't need those, but we've had to evolve our mission statement with the changing times.
Yeah, and I think that's, obviously a really
Sound
great
like a
growth
preacher
point.
there. I better be quiet here.
Because our mission and vision still remains getting these kids ready to be successful, right? We want them to have core values when they leave, have our leadership, the biggest one, being able to advocate for self and others, and being able to just be different, right? Have a culture of respect, know how to lead and how to follow. That's always like, learn to lead. This part matters a lot too.
Yeah.
And I'm right here, right at the top of the chain of command. I have to follow, and so helping our kids learn those skills. I think the board has given us, the ability to do that, to meet our kids' needs and evolve, because society, education, all that has.
And hopefully we're teaching some polishing and civility and being able to be friendly and communicate with adults. That's all stuff it's hard to do because kids are kids, but if we can do that, I think that's a glaring need today. A lot of kids, they don't know how to be polite to anybody, and they don't know how to talk to people outside of their own peer group, and it's going to be hard to get a good job with those kind of habits built up. So
I will say our kids still do, right? They're still different.
I think
in a
so.
cool way.
Because I've had subs tell me that I know Don Volk, who mostly subs in Anderson community, and still does, even though he's he's been long retired from the Paramount Delco Remy, but he says, I tell my fellow substitutes, you ought to try APA if you haven't, because it's a different ball game there, and it's a good place to sub. So that's what we want still, and we still got it, so that's good. Sorry.
Sorry, we kind of tangented your thing. Do you have anything else you want to present, sir?
Not today.
No, you, sir. You missed public comment.
What?
Board, I'd love to introduce you to CJ's child, Marcus. So he's going to be a freshman in high school, and that's your name and what your life is.
You're being called out.
He's a great kid, and we had some furniture that needed moved for the flooring crew, and jumped right in. So thanks, Marcus.
Okay, we should probably leave before they wash the floor in front of the door.
Smart man. Yes, they're going to be stripping it. If they are down that way, can you go out that way? That was part of my negotiation with them.
Appreciate you guys.
All right.
Thanks, CJ. Good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Elise.
All right, any other discussions? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second. Or, I'm sorry, we need a motion.
We need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
All right.
All those opposed?